Everybody, welcome back to PT Ask Dan and the Steel Building, Pittsburgh.
Hello.
So, in the streaming world, if you've ever watched the series Ray Donovan, you'll know where I'm going with this. If you haven't, it'll be okay though too. But Ray Donovan plays a fixer in Hollywood, and he helps people to get in trouble. And his positioning is always, whoever's in trouble, I'm going to go get leverage against that other person, and I'm going to take the pressure off my client. And when he does it, he always ends by looking at them very stoically, and with a firm statement that's also a question, he says, "Understand?" And he stops. So what it got me thinking about, where I'm going with this, is for the longest time, if a client asks or a prospect asked me a question in a sales conversation, after I answered it, I'd end by saying, "Hey, well, does that make sense?" And somebody at one point, and then a couple other people said, "Hey, that's not always something some people are going to respond well to." It almost has that positioning of, "Hey, are you with me? Like, or do I need to slow it down, dumb it down for you," sort of thing. So I've adjusted. When they ask me a question, I'll say, "Hey, did I answer your questions? That give you the clarity you need?" And I'm trying to soften it a little bit because sales today are different, frankly. So can you talk about approaches to gaining, I guess, that same page element before you go on, just to make sure you haven't lost them in where you're trying to go, and maybe some techniques that go along with that?
So my wife and I were looking at redoing the sump pump in our house. And I called out a plumber, and I also called out an electrician to look at everything.
Yeah.
And I remember the plumber saying to me, I get so excited talking about plumbing. Sometimes I say industry buzzwords or jargon that a lot of people don't understand. He goes, "If I ever say that to you, just go time out."
Yeah.
He goes, "And I'll stop, and then you tell me what." And he goes, "Look, you may know everything about plumbing, but it's okay if you don't, because it's my world, not your world." And he started talking about stuff, and I remember thinking at one point, I have no idea what.
Did you ever say time out?
So at first I'm sitting there going, "Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, no, I get it. And finally I'm like, I don't know what this is, time out. And he goes, and this is what when I said time out, he goes, "I'm doing it, aren't I?" I said,
Yes,
yes.
you are.
So there's the key. Let the buyer know it's okay to stop me.
Yes.
It's okay to ask questions. I don't expect you to know this stuff. This is my world, not your world. Just ask. There's no stupid question. It's okay. And when you let people know that up front, John, I think it's much easier for the buyer to then say, "Hey, I don't really understand."
Yeah, and I think that's a great commentary in our space for our clientele, because they're talking about things like 401k plans, health insurance, IT, things that have a lot of jargon, things they're very comfortable in because they're in that world every day. But the woman that owns the lumber yard is focused on the lumber yard, not all the jargon.
Yeah.
And so that's a great way to position it. Say, "Hey, it's okay. And if I stray, stop me." It works. So really like the approach.
I think the end of the day, we want to pretend like we're talking to a third grader about what we do. Don't talk
but not
to them
treat
like
them
they're
that way.
stupid.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's
a
the
good one.
key.
But using simple language that anyone
Yes.
can understand. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're doing siding on someone's house, don't mention the word soffit and fascia. A lot of people have no idea what
What
that
it means.
means.
Yep.
So take them outside and point and say, that will be that color and that will be that color. You don't have to use the industry jargon.
There we go. All right, everybody. See you again tomorrow.
Take care.